I'm Meredith McKenzie, and I'm a registered clinical counselor at Parallel Wellness in Burnaby, British Columbia. And this is
Ashley Greensmyth, and I'm also a registered clinical counselor at Parallel Wellness in Burnaby, BC, and also at Catalyst Kinetics Group in Burnaby.
On this channel, we explore topics that bring clients to our therapy practice every day. You'll find tips and strategies that you can make your own to enhance your everyday life and manage your mental wellness. So subscribe to the channel and hit the bell in the corner so you're notified when we post new videos. We publish every Wednesday. So Ashley and I are both registered clinical counselors at Parallel Wellness. In our practices, we both work with couples. We have run the Gottman 7 Principles for Making Marriage Work workshop together in the past. So we talk a lot about different things going on in our practice and do a little bit of case consultation between one another. And this was something, we're all in this lockdown situation of being in self-quarantine during COVID-19. And how does that impact the couples that we're working with potentially? So we thought that might be an interesting topic to share with everybody else.
Absolutely. And I want to say too that in my work with couples and individuals right now, relationship issues are coming to the forefront. When we're able to spend more time with our partners, what I say sometimes is, that phrase, familiarity breeds contempt. Whatever issues you might have with your partner before the pandemic, you could have a break from interacting with them. You get your 8 hours of work, or you're doing things in the day, you're out and about, but now we're spending so much more time together. And so that can mean that there's more opportunities for issues to arise to the surface and for more conflict. It's also natural for us to feel more irritable right now because there's so much stress and uncertainty. And so I think that relationship issues are going to be concerning for a lot of people right now too.
I think too, something that a lot of people can maybe relate to and maybe weren't so aware of when they were going about their day-to-day lives, but that by having those different outlets outside of the home, different people to connect with, the work, the hobbies, the friends that we were connecting with, that was actually a way to diffuse some of that stress or tension that might be happening within our romantic relationships that now we can't get away from. And maybe we can have a Zoom call with everybody, but it's not the same, and it doesn't provide us with that ability to kind of step away from the situation the way we typically could.
Yeah, it can be harder to have maybe like a safe container for complaining about your partner, or to chatting with your friends about the issues in your relationship, or whoever your emotional and social supports would already be. Those are all going to be issues that are coming up for people when they're needing to take space from their partner.
It makes me think too that all relationships have those perpetual issues that are going on and are familiar within that particular relationship. And so it would be expected possibly that you're going to have more challenges in that area. But I wonder too, if for a lot of people being at home and now trying to incorporate things like working from home or doing homeschooling for your children and all these new roles that you never chose to take on, that have kind of been thrust upon you and that you're expected to kind of make room for in your, what should be your sanctuary, your home life, where the people that you love and care for are there as a safety net. They're now maybe additional distractions or even annoyances in your life, that those are roles that are new and things that maybe couples wouldn't have had to ever think of otherwise.
Yeah, absolutely. Like interruptions in your day, your ability to get your work done, even for folks who are already working from home. Now they have to navigate with having kids interrupt or having partner interrupt, or all of those different kinds of distractions that are maybe present in a home that weren't before. A lot of changing dynamics.
When I was doing some research for what I was going to talk about with you today, Ashley, I found that there were statistics coming out of China where they have experienced that longer shutdown of home life and, not meeting with the outside world. They're seeing an increase in divorce applications at this point. And there's, I guess, a bit of suspicion or wondering if that similar thing is going to happen in North America. I think it's probably too soon to tell at this point, but I think maybe other people might be worried about that.
Yeah, and I think that statistic can apply on a case-by-case basis too. Like anyone who had relationship challenges prior to having to self-isolate and stay at home, they might be closer to their relationship ending than they were before, which I think, is a grim statistic, since divorce rates are usually around, in North America, 50% anyways. To imagine that might increase, that's going to be a lot of heartache, a lot of challenges, a lot of continuing change and dynamics. So hopefully we can introduce some ideas that help people navigate all of the changes and all of the transitions that are happening right now, so that we can temper any flames and have more harmony during self-isolation.
This is not your typical normal way of living, and that the challenges that you're having with your partner at this point, if you are experiencing challenges, are a reflection of going through something actually traumatic and difficult with your partner, and don't necessarily reflect what your relationship looks like as a whole. If you can possibly kind of ride that wave of discomfort comfort with everything that's going on, that hopefully this will pass and you'll have a chance once everything's over to reevaluate, and hopefully things will calm down and you might not feel the way you do at this point.
Absolutely. Being in isolation is probably not the best time or the most representative circumstances to be making long-term decisions about challenges in your relationship that might be arising. Just not to say that people should stay together if they're really sure they don't want to be together anymore, but this is a historical time. Tension is very high for, really valid reasons. And so it might be helpful to be able to put that in perspective, any relationship issues into perspective, thinking about how COVID-19, how the coronavirus is affecting everybody right now relationally too.
So I guess the reason anybody's probably going to be watching this video besides seeing us is going to be that they want a little more information about how they can booster their relationship, that they can create some kind of security within the relationship so that they feel better set for what comes next in this self-quarantine period. First note that I think would be really important to talk about, and I think it's important when we're talking about anything couple related, is how important it is to take care of yourself. And we've already kind of touched on that a little bit about how drastic these changes have been and how it so severely impacts all aspects of our life, from our parent roles, our friend roles, our family roles, our role within our couple, and then also trying to do any type of work. That there's so many changes that are happening. I've also created a video a few weeks ago on how to cope with the whole COVID-19 self-quarantine time. Okay, if you want to see that video, you can have a look at the link right here where I'm going to tag that video.
To your point about taking care of your own self-care and well-being, like you mentioned, it's always important to take time to ourselves for reflection, for processing, for decompressing. And that can be harder for a lot of people for many reasons right now, that there's limited space in the home, that there's limited opportunities to leave the home. There are some places that have a stay-at-home order, so we can't always leave the home. So what I'm about to say is going to apply to those places that don't have a stay-at-home order. It's and that is that it can be really helpful to have some time outdoors, have some time outside the home, just to have a change of environment, even if that looks like, taking a walk before you go pick up your groceries, or maybe you're walking around your neighborhood, even if it's not your favorite place to go for your walk. Walking around your neighborhood is a great opportunity to just take a break, to take a moment to yourself, to decompress. There was a research study completed in 2019 that said that spending 20 minutes outside in nature can significantly reduce your level of cortisol, the stress hormone. Even when people were sitting outside in nature for 20 minutes, they still had a reduction in cortisol. That's helpful to know and helpful to arm yourself with in terms of self-care and taking care of your mental, emotional, even spiritual well-being.
So we always like to give a good plug for taking care of you, helping to make sure that you're at your best anytime we talk about anything within a relationship. And so we touched on this a little bit already. None of us really asked to be in this situation. And with that comes a lot of unexpected, sudden changes. I think it's important to really acknowledge that part, but then also for us to acknowledge the differences between one another in our partnership, and recognizing that anything that was already going on is going to now be amplified when we're staying at home and we're in this self-quarantine time.
This actually came up in conversation recently with a client. We were talking about the differences in their personality and how being at home has really amplified that. For example, if you have one partner who's an extrovert, one partner who is an introvert, one might be really comfortable with staying at home, vegging, playing video games or watching TV, just doing indoor activities, whereas the extrovert might want to be social, spend time with friends, go out. And part of the conflict that we were discussing was what to do when there is a difference in personality preferences and lifestyle preferences too. When we have different hobbies from our partner, this is something that can be amplified by spending time at home, that we might want to have a lot of quality time together, or we might have a preference to have one-on-one activities. We might want to go outside of the home together, but our partner might be really embracing this opportunity to just chill out. And that can be an area of conflict, because we already know from the Gottman research that where these perpetual issues come up in relationships is differences in personality and differences in preferences. And that stuff is going to be right smack in your face when you're staying home and spending a lot of time with your partner.
And Ashley, you made a really good point about perpetual problems that happen in relationships. And one of the biggest perpetual problems that a lot of couples even end up coming to therapy about are differences in how they perceive how money should be spent, or savings and all that type of thing. And I can only imagine at this point, it's still a really stressful time for a lot of people when there's uncertainty about their employment status and how much money they're going to be able to bring in every month. That I can only imagine that this particular perpetual problem has just ignited a lot of stress in many couples.
And we also know from divorce statistics that financial issues are one of the leading causes of distress in relationships that lead to divorce too. If this is a hot button topic, that conversations around this might be even more sensitive. But other issues in the relationship dynamic can be really at the forefront too, like differences with respect to sex, electronic distractions, chores, housekeeping, parenting. All of those differences that you might have conversations about across a week or across a month might be day-to-day conversations.
Mm-hmm. One of the very important principles of the Gottman 7 principles for making marriage work is increasing your fondness and admiration for your partner. And what that involves essentially is really trying to use any of those honing skills that you have to recognize the positive and wonderful attributes and traits of your partner, and almost go through life with rose-colored glasses, right? Like you're trying to see the best in your partner, because when we see the best in our partner, it's easy to then assume that they are meaning well and to have compassion for them and understanding for them. And at the same time, being in this situation, as we've already mentioned, we're not at our best. And so we're probably seeing the worst sides of one another.
Something that came to mind when you were saying that is that we get more of what we praise. And it's easier to give praise when it's in small doses, when it's the end of the day and you want to thank your partner for cleaning up after dinner or for taking out the garbage, or, you know, whatever those kinds of things look like that you might express appreciation to your partner for. And when we are spending so much time with our partner, we might forget about the importance of that gratitude piece. And so I think that's really important to remember, because this is so foundational to the relationship, that our ability to tackle problems together, our likelihood to accept influence, to welcome compromise, all of that rides on being able to have that foundation of appreciation and respect for one another.
And then I think at the same time, recognizing that it's also important for us to be respectful of the space that we're sharing with our partners and our family members. For myself, it's remembering that even if it was a weekend day and I might not make the bed that day, that if that's something that my partner really values, that I'm going to try to do that more consistently throughout the week, because that is important to him. I recognize that that's something that's going to keep us closer together, minimize the number of arguments we're going to have about something. And there's plenty of things that we're going to be grading up against each other with, that let's just have one less thing on the list.
One thing that reminds me of is this caring behaviors exercise that I'll sometimes get partners to do. And that's where each partner makes a list of different things that their partner can do, whether it's behaviors or saying things or acts of service, what have you, that each partner appreciates for one another. So this is something that you can bring into home. A little free therapy there.
I think you mentioned that you're going to be writing a blog post about very similar topics to this. So if anybody's interested in reading that blog post, I'm going to provide a link in the description box down below for that. Ashley's going to be posting it on her website at ashleygreensmyth.com. Ashley, I'm almost wondering if that might be something that you could provide readers to the blog, or even anybody who's watching this video, with a little bit of a handout if they wanted to print it off and use it, or put it on their iPad and use it as one of their date night tools.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I can give the instructions for that.
So if you're interested in booking an online session with Ashley, I'm going to provide a link in the description box down below for that. And you can book a session with her online or by telephone to be able to either do some individual work or work as a couple. Also, don't forget to register for the Gottman 7 Principles Afternoon Delight workshop with Ashley. Hope that you've gathered some really valuable information today for how you can make this time at home with your partner a little bit better, a little bit sweeter, that we can not only flatten this curve of COVID-19, but flatten the curve of the divorce rate, because we can all be spending this time more productively, more intentionally, to benefit our relationships. So if you like this video, give it a like, and don't forget to share it with anybody that you think would be interested. Subscribe to the channel and check back here, because we're going to be posting more videos on how to support your relationship and all things couples related.
Thanks, Meredith, for inviting me to have this conversation across Canada today. It's been really fun to dive into this topic.
And thanks for coming on, and obviously anytime, you're welcome. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.